Okay. I started.
Do you want to look? That's it, yeah. Thank you. Do you want this so you can look at up here? Sure, I think using this to like select. Yeah. I just got these. Yeah. Pop an iPhone, put the iPhone there. Okay. Are these just for coffee?
I'm not sure.
Oh, you're not specialist on this. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and take it.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Have a good day.
I think we got it. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Hey, that's great. Good, how are you? Of course, yeah, we're a bit low. Do you see it? The seated packet? You're doing all right? The semester, the second semester to start, we're short of it?
I think we're going to start.
Oh, wait, that's great. That's great.
So I just sent people the two things over.
Okay, I'll grab that.
Short is a fantastic.
Fantastic. Not so much right now, it's all on Zoom.
Yeah. But it's
It's okay.
yeah. But it's good with this. Well, we will.
Is that the all? 375.
The event is like this.
Okay, see you.
Someone wants to start. When you're using like your computer and showing your screen to your board of directors and you have a personal text.
Yeah.
That's happened to me more than once.
Can they see the text?
If you're broadcasting your screen,
Yeah.
not like here.
Mhm.
All right, should I let people in?
Yeah. gonna take off our masks, right, for all right, you can do it. You tell me when you want us to start. I see people coming on now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe by the TV and the professionals are 2 minutes before they put on all their makeup. They know what they're doing,
Yeah, right.
especially when you're.
Yeah, and I guess they'll say if we can't see.
They'll send them. That's what we found is we need like one person in front of the camera and one person like managing all the messages and
Yeah.
the tech. That what? It says they're going. Okay.
Yeah, there's people we can see on the phone there.
And it's like I don't know what power teacher does it on Microsoft.
Yeah.
30 kids.
Right.
And then the idea of hybrids.
Yeah.
Okay. Bonjour, bienvenue. My name is Anne. I'm the director of the Alliance Française de Milwaukee, and we are really very happy to have Chef Andrew Althoff with us, and he's going to present Mother Sauces, the building blocks for all other sauces. So we are right now filming with my very professional iPhone at North Shore Boulangerie's location in Shorewood. And as many of you know, North Shore Boulangerie just opened a space in Mequon. Super exciting. And North Shore Boulangerie in Shorewood, so while we're filming, it is still open to the public, so people might be popping in and buying a last minute baguette or croissant, so there might be some background noise. It is really my pleasure to introduce our good friend, Chef Andrew Althoff. And I've had the pleasure of experiencing Chef Andrew's cuisine many times since he came to North Shore Boulangerie in September of 2018. Before coming to the Shorewood location, Chef Andrew held positions in Milwaukee's top fine dining kitchens, including Lake Park Bistro, Mason Street Grill, and Eddie Martini's. His menus emphasize the quality ingredients in classic preparation, following his tradition, the tradition of his alma mater, the Culinary Institute of America, located in Hyde Park, New York. His signature dishes include such classic French dishes such as soupe à l'oignon gratiné, coq au vin, and cassoulet. In keeping with his fine dining roots, Chef has initiated evening wine dinners, which of course were halted about a year ago with the pandemic. But he's had wine dinners focused on the big wine regions of France, including Bordeaux, the Loire Valley, the Côte d'Azur, and Southern Rhone Valley. So today, Chef is going to talk about the mother sauces, so the building blocks for all other sauces. And technically, if you can master these 5 sauces, you are really taking a first step to becoming a French chef. So these were first established by Marie-Antoine Carême, who lived in the late 18th century, early 19th, and then codified by Auguste Escoffier, who lived in the mid 19th century to mid 20th century. And the 5 sauces are Bechamel, Espagnole, Velouté, Tomate, and Hollandaise. So I think everybody's heard of sauce Hollandaise and maybe Bechamel. The other 3 are a little bit more obscure. And maybe you can tell us more about the sauces and about their history with Mr. Kevin and Mr. Escoffier. So I don't really know what that means, established and then codified.
Yeah, well, he's Carême's a little before Escoffier, just so they're kind of work together brief periods, but they kind of wrote the book on French cooking, modernized like in recipe form and kind of the philosophy on paper. So we're using it today. So that's kind of the building blocks. The stuff that they wrote down is what the sauce part is what I'm going to be doing today. Just showing some of the mother sauces and another sauce, not included in the mother sauces, but Berbank sauce these days, everyone really has taken a liking to. I mean, it's a butter sauce, so you can't not love it. But I'll be doing one of those as well, just for kind of home cooks and, other professionals alike. This is kind of an easy way to do it. And so we'll be, I don't know if we have a picture it's saying it needs a password or something. Okay. Yeah. So I'll be doing that, getting the sauces going, and I'll be explaining what they are and what I'm doing. So I'm going to start right now. We'll jump right into it, and to make this Berbank sauce, which is lemon butter sauce, a little variation on the classic butter sauce. I'm going to be doing a reduction first, so that'll take a little bit of time. So I'm going to get that started right now, and then I'll go right into other sauces while that's reducing. So it's a basic recipe. I'm turning on the heat now, and I'm going to add pretty much a start for the reduction, which is shallots, vinegar, wine, and lemon juice. So I've got shallots, vinegar, lemon juice, which is going to be our kind of.
And why do you have both lemon and vinegar? I know people mixing those two together.
Well, I'm adding for a lemon Berbank, so it's a little more concentration. Usually it'll be lemon and wine, but a little more lemon juice now. And they're both acids, so they reduce more, and then the butter, it'll give it a little more flavor, and just for that type of sauce. So I'm gonna see how these heat up. Jean said they're pretty quick, so once that gets rocking, I'll turn it down. But as long as that's going, it'll reduce a long way till it's almost they say very thick. So then I'll be adding butter to it, whisking the cold butter in, by hand.
For those of you listening to us, you can't smell, but it's smelling pretty good right now.
Yep.
Kind of vinegary and onion at the same time.
And then I'm gonna go with let's see, 5, 6, 10. Okay. Then I'm gonna start the tomato sauce we do now, and the Escoffier version is very different. He uses Roux, which is a butter and flour. That's like your thickening agent for sauces, all of you that are new to the sauce game. Escoffier used a lot of Roux for thickening sauces, where today's standards tomato sauce is pretty much tomatoes, a little bit of water and maybe some cream, and just cook till it's thickened, and then it's pureed. He didn't use a lot of purees, although it's in his book. But so today it's going to be more like tomato sauce has Roux in it, butter and flour, and he even put salted pork to get started for some of the oil for the Roux. So it's a little different than it is now. Like with the Berbank or the demi-glace, it's pretty much a veal stock reduced with wine, where he used like a half and half thickened Espagnole sauce, the brown sauce that I'm doing today, and a beef stock, which is just the stock that I'm using to make the sauce with, like half, and then reduce that. So it's a little different, but if done properly, you know, they're all very still good. So I'm going to just get started with a little bit of butter, clarified butter, to make the roux, because the roux will be used in all the sauces. So I'm just going to show you a demo of how to do the roux. What I'm doing basically is clarified butter is whole butter with the fat taken out of it. So the fats come up to the top, you skim off the top, and then you're going from there with just the whole butter, or the clarified butter, if you will. So
this is something you can prepare at home. It's just that you need to prepare it beforehand, right?
yeah, right, you just are doing it beforehand. Yeah, you have to make the roux before, so it's kind of a preparation for the sauce. The butter and the flour, you can use whole butter, or for the kitchen I work in, I use whole butter to make roux because I think it has a better flavor with the butter fats in it. But Escoffier, I'm going off his playbook. He used more of a clarified butter for I mean, differences are, oops, spilled the flour, are more flavor, I think, than your texture, because it's all the butter flour ratio is about the same. It's usually about, well, to a quart of liquid, you know, about 4 ounces of flour, but it's usually that, like, you want wet sand, so I don't know if you can see, hopefully you can. It's just kind of coming together like wet sand is what the adage is. So you're mixing that around so it doesn't stick. I got my Bernays, or my Berbank reduction going. You can really smell the vinegars, but it's boiling down. Got it fairly high heat just so it can work, because we only have you know, so much time to do all this sauce. So you can see this roux here is, you know, it's kind of clumpy but smooth when I'm stirring it. So that's kind of what you want. And there's different kinds of roux, so you can get as complicated as you want, but we've got cooked more and less. Like for your darker sauces, like your Espanol, you're using a brown roux, which is just cooked a little more of the flours. You've got your blonde or pale roux, which is cooked a little less. And then you have your white roux, which is pretty much just started. There's not a lot of difference between the pale roux and the brown roux, and the white roux. But what I'm doing here is making a brown roux. Kind of are stirring it, and then sorry to interrupt you, but if you're doing less for like your lighter sauces, like your Boulangerie and your Bechamel, you're doing a lighter roux, like a white roux or a pale roux. But this is a brown roux. It's going into the Espanol sauce, so it has kind of a noisette, you know, hazelnut smell to it. So when you get that, that's what you know you're doing okay. So I'm going to go and start with my mirepoix for the brown sauce, which is brown stock, you know, veal stock.
Question, how long does roux last in the fridge?
In the fridge, it's pretty infinite. Out, you can leave it out. What I do, it's about a week roughly. So it's pretty manageable. Yeah, for you know, about a week if it's out. If it's in the fridge, you know, it lasts a good while. I'd say at least a month, you know. So tomato or Espanol sauce, brown sauce. I'm doing a little bit of mirepoix.
So what is mirepoix?
Mirepoix is your vegetables to flavor soups, sauces, anything kind of, it's a flavoring agent. And with Escoffier, he strains a lot of it out, but if you're making a soup puree, you can leave it in, you still get the added bonus of the flavoring.
And is it any specific vegetables or?
Yeah, carrot, onion, and celery is the common, but Escoffier, he added a lot more, like with thyme, bay leaves. He put some seasoning in, but I'm just going with the Mirepoix to show you kind of the old school version of the Escoffier Espagnole, which people just call it brown sauce or demi now, which is pretty close, to being correct. But so you get the Mirepoix sweat, and that was clarified butter I put in there. So that's gonna make your roux in the pot. So I'm gonna add flour to this veg Mirepoix mixture, and then I'm gonna add tomatoes, which he put into the Espagnole, and then brown sauce. And then that's kind of your finish, and then it gets strained after that. No puree, but like tomato sauces, to strain it these days would be ridiculous because you have such good tomatoes. You're using flavoring. You don't want to. So Escoffier got the essence of the tomato in the sauce without having the actual tomato in there. So that's kind of the genius of him. So I'm just sauteing this in the butter, and then I'm going to add the flour and make a roux. Still boiling away on here, and then I'll add a little bit of this roux too, because it's the brown, and then that'll be the thickening agent. So what he does a lot of the times nowadays, when I make a sauce, I'll bring the liquid up to a boil and then add the roux, hot or cold, and that works usually pretty well. He'd kind of put it all in a pan and then bring it up to a boil, which has its advantages and disadvantages, but it's kind of, nowadays it's more of a heat, and then add your roux. So what I'm doing, I added a little bit of that brown roux for this tomato, not tomato sauce, the Espagnole. And then I'm gonna add some tomatoes and beef stock, and then that'll thicken. So just a couple tomatoes. He had a lot more, but I'm just kind of using the canned tomato for the flavoring and swishing that around.
Whole peeled and
Yeah, peeled whole, yeah, and then a little bit of the stock. And then I'm gonna be just kind of whisking to make,
and you didn't chop those up, you just kind of twist them.
yeah, right. Because with his version, it's gonna get strained. I gotta check the power. I'll be right back. We just lost our power.
Were there questions from the people? We just blew a fuse. Oh, here we go. That's part of cooking, blowing fuses.
Questions about sending recipes after recording.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we will send, we have all of your emails, so we can send all those recipes. I said that part of cooking is blowing your fuse, setting off the smoke alarm.
No doubt. So we haven't done this. We did a couple demos here for like families. For my church, they I would do a demo for fundraiser, and they would come in here and I'd entertain back before the COVID,
But COVID also got more people interested in cooking, I think.
Yeah, it's possible.
More people in the kitchen.
Yeah, with more time in their hands, yeah.
Yeah, and not being able to go out for food.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so I'm putting back on, maybe, I don't know, I'll try over here. I think they're all
They're all the same.
two are on this circuit, one is on another circuit, so We'll figure it out. So that'll get thick. It was about 8 ounces of stock to, I'd say, 2 to 3 ounces of roux. And then you're just kind of whisking it till it's smooth. Your best fighters for your stock is your whisk and your strainers. These guys right here, the chinois, or that's more or less a chinois, but you know, cheaper. But it works really well, the fine mesh. So that and skimming your impurities usually.
What is the reason for streaming?
Just well, because you got chunky right there.
Okay.
So you would just put it all through, and I don't know if you can see it, but it's definitely getting sauce consistency now with the roux being added. We're still, turn that one off. Still reducing. So this is the start of the Espanol, and that's basically it. I'll strain it, and yeah, that's good because you have a good beef stock, which they make a lot of beef stock and chicken stock ready to go. You know, broth or bone broth, whatever you want to call it. It's a good start if you don't want to spend 12 hours and do a veal stock, cut veal bones and mirepoix. So there's ready-made stuff that's good to go. You just need to take care. You're picking a good one with not sodium as your first ingredient list or recipe.
And I know on the sheet that people receive, you explain the difference between broth and stock.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, broth is usually your meat in with the liquid, and stock is bones, basically. So that's kind of your difference between broth and stock. So you can try them for yourself. You know, sometimes people put what they want into them and call it stock or sauce or broth. But usually the meat being into a broth, like chicken stock would have, or chicken broth would have chicken in it, you know, in the beginning and then strained out. So they poach chicken or beef stock, same thing.
And then what would you use with it despite your cost?
Well, this is kind of a tutorial too. With you're making a soup you can make out of any sauce. You know, you're just adding more liquid and added ingredients. It's kind of, I mean, wine you can add to it. There's really no limits. Once you get your stock sauce, your mother sauce, you can add what you like. Reduce wine with it. Have a port demi. Demi Escoffier was this sauce, the Espanol, and beef stock, and then just reduce. But you can add wine and reduce more. You can add tarragon. As the variations on we'll explain, there's different things you can add to it. Like, I'm not going to do a variant on this one. I'm just kind of showing you how it is. Yeah. And then we're still reducing on the Berbank. I'm going to go with the Bechamel, which is...
The Bechamel just seems like so basic for French cooking.
Yeah. Yeah, and it really kind of is. I mean, it's your milk and roux. You could add shallots. There's pepper, nutmeg. But kind of the base going here.
And what would you say is the difference between a shallot and an onion?
Well, people say that shallots could be more mild, but I don't really see much of a difference. It has a pronounced flavor different than your white onion. But usually your vinaigrettes, your soups, your sauces, well, not soups. Soups are mostly onion, white or red or whatever. But more your sauces and a la minute cooking is more shallots, just to kind of a little fancier, I guess. It definitely has a different flavor than a straight up, white onion. So that's kind of what you're bringing to the party there if you're using a shallot as opposed to just an onion. So that's basically your consistency too. It's been boiling away, but when it's strained, that's your kind of, it grips the back of the spoon. They call that nappe. It just hangs on the back of the spoon. Yeah, and it's
You're making us hungry.
beefy and delicious. So that can go along different ways. So what I'm going to do, I already have one made. I'm just going to get the pot clean so I can start something else.
Yes, as I mentioned, North Shore Boulangerie is still open, so we have people we know coming in and buying fantastic bakery and smelling the fantastic smells that come from the Espagnol, the reduction, and the Bechamel sauces.
I'll be right back.
So I guess I'm in charge of all the sauces while just stepping back. So is everybody cooking at the same time from their kitchens? Or just taking notes? Okay, drinks. Yeah,
Right.
we're gonna drink later. We're gonna drink after this.
So the fun part about having 3 burners is you only have so many pans and you have to wash the pans. So that's where I'm at right now. Bechamel, yeah, those 2 if you can, that would be awesome. So bechamel is basically your milk and roux, which I already have roux made. Like I showed you before, and it's usually about the same, 8 ounces, say, to like 4 ounces, and then bringing it up to a boil, and then thickening it with the roux, which we're gonna use the pale, pale roux, actually the white roux, not the pale or the dark roux, because it's a white sauce. Makes sense, right? A little salt I add, a little nutmeg, and a little white pepper. And then that'll just come up, and then so you can see this one, the reduction here for the shallot Berbank, or the lemon Berbank, is getting pretty small now, or reduced.
And so you said that was a mixture of butter, lemon, vinegar, and shallots?
This was lemon juice, white wine, vinegar, wine, and shallots. Yeah. So, and then you can put thyme or shallots. It's going to get strained anyway. So that's kind of your, like I said, these are building blocks. And if you're feeling adventurous, you can definitely keep going with that. Because it's fun to do different things. You have a wine dinner, you want to impress your friends, put some tomato puree in it or tomato paste, make a tomato Berbank, or you can use red wine instead of the white. Have a Rouge, which is, red wine Berbank basically too. So let's see. You guys can see and hear me okay, right? I'm hoping. Yeah, away for 10 minutes. Yeah.
On the spoon.
Okay, and then velouté, I'll start up on that as well. Won't need a pan, so that's going. I'll cook that up a little more, and then I'll add the butter. Which this is, you're doing whole butter, raw, cut. It's a cold preparation, whereas roux, you're doing hot butter and flour to mix it. But so this is the magic of the butter and the the reduction that holds it all together. So you're kind of just getting a gauge for this saute to see how high it needs to be, because you don't want it to be super high in the beginning for your butter to whisk in for the beurre blanc. You get it started, then you can add quicker, you know, with your butters going in. And then bechamel, and then I'll do a velouté, and then hollandaise. So this seems to be, it's got a pretty good boil to it. If you can see it, I don't know, but it's not super high, but it's.
Would you say the difference between a bechamel, velouté, and espagnole is the liquid that you put in with the roux?
Right, like velouté is kind of your stock. It could be a beef or a chicken. Usually it's a chicken or a white veal stock, which is, you know, a veal stock, you know, beef, but that's kind of stock thickened with roux is basically your velouté, which we use in a range of sautéing, just adding a little bit of spice, you know, nice to keep it wet and, you know, a good texture, excuse me. Or, you know, for soups as a base for soups. But the bechamel is milk. Spill over there.
That's the problem with milk.
Yeah. So you got to be careful with that. I'll show you what not to do. So, okay, you got them? Good, thank you. That was pretty cool. I've never done that on an induction burner, so you're getting to see a lot of good stuff. So that is right where it's mostly onions and water, or the reduction. So that's going to stick your beurre blanc together. So I think I'll just do that now. So it's still boiling, and then you're just kind of. I haven't found my right.
And your ventilation is going well because we don't smell
Yeah.
burnt milk.
Well, it's not burnt. Yeah, it's down there. It's not burning, but which is good. So I'm just kind of putting in a little bit of butter, melting it, and then adding more.
Rye and cheese.
So you're just whisking is basically what you're doing here.
You don't want to dump it all at the same time. Right?
Yeah, no, you want to slowly incorporate it. You'll see it start to melt, and then that'll rip the foundation for adding more once you get So once you kind of melt, you're starting slow, and then you can build once you get a foundation of the butter. It's not boiling or anything.
So it looks like being one of those several plates up at the same time.
Yeah, right. I'm kind of trying to get as much as I can in a little amount of time. You know, to show you guys the whole gamut of sauces. You know, a little over an hour. So you can see how it's kind of starting to make a sauce. You've got it adding slowly, and it's starting to melt and make a sauce.
Oh, it's good, boy.
Thank you. So we got. Thank you. So one, we'll try that. But that means it's ready. So, and thankfully, if you let it stay when it's boiling like that, it'll scorch. But it's not scorched, so that'll be a mistake. It's just slowly, and then I'll add roux to that, and basically cheeses, because I'm going to make a variation of that. And hopefully, if there's time, I'll do boil some pasta, make like a Mornay sauce, which is Swiss and Parmesan cheese added to your bechamel, which is what we use on the line for our croque monsieur and the croque madame. That's kind of one of the building blocks for that sandwich. It makes it taste so good.
I think a bechamel is the first step to a souffle.
Yeah, there's a lot you can do with bechamel, soup-wise or sauce. So I can kick this up a bit because I'm starting to get a good foundation. And then the shallots are going to get strained out of it. So when you're cutting the shallots, you don't have to be super, you want to get them small enough so that the water will pass through any reduction when you're making it, so you get that good shallot flavor, but it's going to get strained out of it. So we got a good medium with the bechamel or the milk for right now. You can use heavy cream, or you can, again, the standard recipe is usually milk, and that's what we do at the restaurant, but to make the bechamel. So I'm stirring, and then I'm going to stir. I'm going to add some of the pale roux.
How do we know that the milk is scorched?
Yeah, how do we know if the milk is scorched?
Just smell it. It'll stick. It'll be sticky to the bottom, kind of, like grainy, but you'll smell it more than anything.
And scorched basically means you're
Burnt, yeah, right. So I'm kind of trying to keep this, doing two things at once here. Berbank, some people have added it all at once and just stirred. I kind of add, it's the best way to do it is you just add a little at a time, so you can see where you're at. And if it's too thick, you don't need to add more. If it's too thin, you add more, but it's going to get that thickness from the more butter you add. So you can see it's getting pretty saucy right now. For actually this reduction, it calls for 1.5 pounds of butter, but I don't think we're going to need it. It might be a little more flavorful, but it's going to be going with with pasta, or the Berbank will be with I've got a bronzino I'm going to sear. So this is pretty thick, so I'm going to add a little bit more milk, and that's something you can also do.
And use whole milk.
Whole milk, yeah. Whole milk has the right fat content. You could definitely thicken a 0% milk if you have enough roux, but the fat is what your flavor is going to be. So yeah, I'll add more. And I'll try not to make a mess, but good luck with that. It's just I have the smaller pan here. So I brought these from home. You don't have them here.
So do you cook at home?
Yeah, all the time. I have 3 boys, so yeah, they're big on that. And yeah, I do cook at home. I do something like this. They don't like it usually. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But the boys under the age of 12, they just want the regular American lifestyle, unfortunately. So I do make chicken tenders at home a lot, and hot dogs.
Well, you can make a good mac and cheese with this on it.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I do that, they like it, but it's hard to. So I'm trying to cultivate their palates as they get older.
And then can you use the bechamel for sweets?
Yeah, you can turn it, adding sweet. Yeah, I'm trying to think here. Because it technically would work. You could add for like a sauce or, filling even, make it tighter. Because the one at the restaurant here, we make the bechamel is a little thicker because it's going on a sandwich, and so this is Just trying to give it a little more consistency. It'll toss in to the pasta, no problem, but I just want to get it a little more fluent. You don't want to have it too thick. You can always add more. Once you thicken it, you put that roux in there, that's as thick or as thin it'll be. It takes a little while because it was so low here. If it's boiling and you add roux, you'll kind of get an instant kind of degree of how thick it'll be. But if you're low like me, because I'm worried about boiling it over in a small pan, you can add more to thin it out. So I'll do a little bit more. It looks like we're pretty good on the consistency. I'm gonna check my, do a lot of tasting. Yeah, it's lemony, not crazy. I mean, it's a lemon Berbank, which in addition to, usually it's your wine and vinegar and butter, but I put a little more lemon juice in here, so it's lemony, you know. If you want less lemon, put less lemon juice, you know, that type of thing. There's no rules there. So that's kind of your thickness. I don't want it to get super thick, but I also, the more butter you add, the more you get.
Yeah, it's definitely
I
hard to be looking at this right before you're doing it.
Yeah. And so I use the salted butter. Some people are diehard unsalted, but I end up seasoning anyway. So the salt, the little salt that's in the salted butter, you know, for the restaurant, you know, you can use the best butter, you know, in the world that you want to make a roux, but it would seem, or Berbank, you know, you're having other things in it, so it kind of defeats the purpose of a super nice butter. I mean, it's not, you know, if you want to taste the butter like in your hollandaise sauce, yeah, you can spend money, but it also, you know, you'll taste the butter either way. So I guess I don't know what I'm talking about, but you know, if you want to use good butter, you can definitely use good butter. So.
What you're saying is you can make a pretty good
Yeah,
sauce with just
out of your, yeah, salted or unsalted. So then this Berbank, I'm just gonna strain because there were shallots in it. It tastes good. You just want to get the shallots out of it. So through a sieve. Wash this one. So then it's just a matter of,
straighten out just goes to the
yeah, right. You don't need to do it anymore here. So that's kind of your butter sauce here. It's got a thickness, but it's not too thick. It's a good pour. So maybe I'll pour that on my plate. So that's your Berbank. And then you've got, yeah, it's a lot of butter. And then we've got kind of your it's like your Espanol right there. And then Bechamel is still going. That'll be thicker.
You can see that they're obviously sauces, but they still sort of have some consistency where they're not dripping all over the plate.
Yeah, right. You want to, that's that nappe, you want it to be, that's where the roux comes in. It just turns the liquid into something saucy. So next, I'm going to, oh, he's bringing that back. Okay. So tinker with this. What am I missing here? Velouté. Velouté is basically, how are we on time? Are we going over? Because I'd like to sear some stuff to add to the sauces.
I think we have time this year.
We did bechamel, the Espanol, tomato sauce. We didn't do a tomato sauce, did we?
So there's a holiday.
Yeah, hollandaise, yeah. So I'll do
Maybe
tomato.
we can do the hollandaise and leave the tomato in, just in case we have time.
Yeah, okay.
Or skip it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I can get that going now.
I think a lot of people want to crack the code of the hollandaise sauce.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, tomato sauce I did earlier, so it's there, but I can run you through. It's different than a regular, your modern tomato sauce, which is a tomato puree. It's basically, he did like a veal stock, cooked tomatoes in the veal stock with the mirepoix, like carrot and onion, and then he would add the tomatoes, and that was basically it. Or thicken it with roux. So from your modern standards, it's really a wacky tomato sauce from the Escoffier viewpoint. So, veal stock, roux, butter, and flour, basically. So it kind of gets away from my standpoint, the actual tomato. But I made one today, and it tastes like tomato. So the essence is in there, but it's just a different animal. And I can show you right here. It's more of it almost looks creamy, obviously, because it has butter in it, but you're looking at tomato sauce, Escoffier way. So it's, with roux in it, butter, flour. So it's kind of different. It's really good, I mean, would be, with a fish, that would be awesome. So we've got, the bechamel has finally come to fruition here. I'm going to try it, see if it needs anything. And that's important, too, to try your stuff. If you don't like it, you're like, well, like this one, it's milk and roux, and that butter is salted, but I'm adding more because it just didn't hit the mark. So, the salt content and the salted butter isn't a huge add. So, and you're going to get, what I'm going to do is make the Mornay. So I'm going to add Parm and the Swiss, the Gruyere, but there's salt in that too. So you just kind of have to play to your taste, if you, like my mother, and salts everything, without even tasting it. This might not be, you might need to add more salt, but, again, it's how you want to do it. But so I'm just kind of.
Well, from experience, it's always better to salt less than
Yeah,
salt.
right. You can't take it out once it's in. Yes, that's how I do it. It's not about the, no salt, pepper, crap. They want to. I don't go overboard. If they want to put salt on it or heat it up more, I will gladly do that. I have no problems there.
Well, I guess it's important to be mindful that there's a little bit of salt in the Parmesan and the.
Yeah, right. The salt content, Gruyere, and I mean it's cheese. That's kind of their thing for every makeup. So I'm just putting like maybe to this batch. I like it cheesy, and so do my kids. So it's about 1/4 to 1/2 cup each, and then it's low heat. It's at number 1 as opposed to 10 on this one, because this one I use it at work. So and then you can do it off heat and it's fine, or really low. You don't want to really boil when you're adding cheese. You're just kind of incorporating it because the sauce is already hot. You're just letting the cheese melt get in there, you know, and the hot sauce will take care of that.
And so is it important that it be always Gruyere and Parmesan, or can we do other cheeses for a moment?
Well, yeah, Mornay, I mean, if you look in, you know, Wikipedia or whatever, it might tell you, you know, it's so hard to track the original source, you know, with all the media that's out there and telling you this and that. But I've always done Mornay with Parm and what's that other one? Gruyere. But, you know, Alfredo sauce, you know, it's the same thing. You know, there might be just Parm. You know, Italy's different than France, so you can add blue cheese, you know. People, you wouldn't realize it, but if you put blue cheese in there, people won't know. You know, not if you put a huge amount, but, and it's a good flavor add. People are like, ooh, what's that? Well, they're hating blue cheese, but if there's a little, you know, your secrets are with you, but what goes on in the kitchen stays in the kitchen, you know, secret recipes and all. So that's kind of a little thicker, but still, you know, I'm not even going to strain that. You know, I don't know, because it's still a little more cheese in there as well. But you got a little thicker, but it holds its shape, and I do it a little thicker because, yeah, that's good salt wise too. Not overly, it'll be good.
And when we say that you're supposed to codify some of these sauces, are there really set proportions for the different names?
Yeah. Well, yeah, he kind of, you know, ratios that we use now, some are his, some are, you know, there's a whole book written on ratios for like food in general that is an awesome read. Well, maybe not for you guys, but for me, it was, you know, like the building blocks of how, you know, like what goes into what your ratio is for, you know, custard or, you know, a soup for thickening roux, you know, just different sauces, what works, you know, the ratio. So that's kind of what bakers live by. What I try to, you know, if you write a recipe, it's basically ratios, you know, how you do it. So yeah, that's a good read. I mean, if you're ever in the market, a Michael Woolman ratio.
It's always interesting, and especially now that I see the work, how much chemistry is involved.
Yeah, right. It's science, but the cook's different than baking, you know, and bread. You can kind of go off the page, which is nice. But so we've got holidays. Are you ready? Are you excited? Are you scared?
Now sauce number 4.5. I don't know if we went to
Yeah.
tomato, but probably the last sauce that we'll talk about today.
So we've got, I do for the restaurant at brunch, I do lemon juice to 15 egg yolks to like about a quart of butter. I do hot sauce, so lemon juice, hot sauce, about a tablespoon of each.
Which hot sauce do you use?
This is a chipotle. And then a vinegar. So like a tarragon vinegar, I just buy a gallon of white vinegar, jam a quarter pound of tarragon into it and let it steep for, you know, infinite, because it's vinegar. But, and then that's kind of my hollandaise recipe. So like tablespoon, a quarter cup of the tarragon vinegar and 15 yolks. That makes me my hollandaise every Sunday at brunch here. And then you stir it up, and then your butter, it's clarified. You could do whole butter for hollandaise too. People don't realize that, but you're stirring it up, butter or clarified or regular. And I'm doing it on a double burner, which is boiling water. So you fit this in, it's a little easier, it takes a little longer, but at the restaurant, I'll just do it over an open flame because it'll go quicker. And if you're keeping track of your egg yolks, that's all that matters. You don't want to curdle them. You want them to get hot and thick. So you're stirring. This is what generates that. The heat being overturned by the whisk is what's keeping your emulsion stable to start. And then on top of it, you're dumping hot butter onto it, which it's not hot, but usually it'll be hotter on the line. I'll have it set aside. So it's hot, and this is really sketchy, but I've done it a few times, so I have an idea. So now I'm gonna turn it down. You wanna keep whisking so you're getting it thick without, turning it too curdled. So yeah, I've got some issues here because my temperatures are a little harder for me to see here, but it'll work.
So why do people think holiday sauce is so hard to do?
Well, because it takes time, and yeah, your eggs, you're scared to work with eggs. You don't want to cook them too much or too little, but this is coming together pretty quick. Yeah, the eggs, you pretty much just want to get them thicker than they were. I don't know, I didn't point out the consistency, but you can see right now that it's pretty saucy as it is.
So is that coming from the heat, the lemon?
Yeah, the heat, the acids in there, it's all cooking, thickening the egg, because if you whip egg, it's going to get air into it and it'll be thicker, but that's not what you want. That's, this is a temporary emulsion, but so what I'll do is once I get the thickness of the start, the base, I'll just keep it off, and then I'll just add my butter, which is melted butter, and I put it in a squirt bottle because it's the recipe I use, which is, like I said, about, I wouldn't say a quart, but
What does it, for example, what would the proportion of the butter be in relationship to the 15 yolks?
well, I'd say 15 yolks to what I do is about, it's maybe 1.5 pounds clarified butter. Or if you wanted to do whole butter, yeah, you'll just be adding the whole. You're melting it though first, because unlike the butter sauce for Blanc, this one has to be melted to work with the start of the eggs.
So what would you say are the basic equipment that somebody who's cooking at home should have?
Well, you need fire and a pot. So usually bowls, because your whisking is your best agent. You can do it in a pan, and I have, but this is a lot more. I call it idiot proof, but no offense to anyone, but if I train someone online, I want it to be idiot proof, so anyone can do it. Like my recipe's standardized, So I have, I don't know. I don't even know what I was saying. I'm kind of lost here. I'm just trying to keep with this janky bowl.
And you didn't put any salt, right?
No. So I have the salted butter and the seasoning, Tabasco has seasoning or what, the salt. So that's pretty much what your plate. You want to taste the butter. There is lemon juice and, Chipotle hot sauce and tarragon vinegar. So you're going to get flavoring. It's more to appreciate what you have when you're adding the sauce to. Like we do a poached egg, like a Benedict. That's a classic, I do a smoked salmon Benedict with creme fraiche and the béarnaise. Now, adding butter or hollandaise variants, are on there too. But adding tarragon makes a béarnaise. You can do tomatoes, like tomato sauce. There's a lot of different flavors you can add to make the butter pop, in a different way. but this is just your standard butter sauce. So you see, I'm not even through with it, but I think I've got the consistency that I need. You know, some people like it thicker, some thinner, but that's horrible. And it'll hold, I'll say it this way, I start at 10 for brunch and end at 2. And usually at the end, it's debatable, depending on whether you stir it or not, but this is basically your same recipe that I use.
And it's completely, it's good for any diet.
Yeah. If you like eggs and
Cholesterol.
egg yolks and butter, yeah. Like, yeah, Escoffier didn't have he was not a cuisine connoisseur. He wasn't healthy. He was about the flavor, so the only one, the velouté, was the one I didn't do, but I was gonna do some dishes, but it's 6. I don't know, should I do any or just leave it at that, or?
I think we can leave it at that.
Yeah,
Maybe
okay.
answer questions if people have.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, people could, for some reason, there's already 5 on there. So,
Yeah. The tomato I didn't do, but I showed you the difference in like the common tomato sauces, because I did that beforehand. Velouté is pretty much, the Espanol, but different. I was going to do a chicken velouté, but it's roux and your stock, which could be fish stock, beef stock, chicken stock, veg stock. You can do a Juliet.
yeah.
Oh.
You want to put the plate down?
Yeah. I don't know if that's.
Can you see it?
See, they're all pretty sticky. And they've been on the plate for a good half hour too, but Berbank, Espanol or brown sauce, your Hollandaise, your Bechamel, and your tomato sauce. The only other one would be, the velouté, but that would look kind of a cross between, the yellow of the chicken stock and the white of the roux. So, but it's the same principle. The roux is basically your Escoffier building block of sauces for modern cooking, or for his modern cooking, 100 years ago.
It
So,
smells delicious.
yeah. And then you have, your Hollandaise, your 3 different types of roux, which is just cooking it longer in the flour and the butter to develop. You have your white roux, your pale roux, your dark roux. So that's kind of in a nutshell. I know I'm throwing a huge amount of information at you guys. And if I can get back to you, any questions, or if you have questions now, anything to get you started. Yeah, I've got it. It's just his book translated from this. There's a couple different versions going around. There's a green copy and this copy, which I got this at Barnes & Noble about 20 years ago. When I was at CIA, I graduated in 99. So it was before then. I was at a technical college in Florida. So this was, this was the guidebook. And it really is cool for me, being a food geek, to read in the past and see what, they did outrageous stuff, like really, just some cool, I don't know, older, you think, why would they sweat 5 pounds of pork to make a tomato sauce? But it's kind of old school big, or go home, but really cool book how it all started, I should say, French wise, because culinary CIA was French based, they do everything there, but the basics were in French, they say, cooking. So any other questions?
I don't see any.
Okay, good.
I had a question. So what are we going to do with all these sauces? So you can bring them all home tonight and feed your kids?
Well, the Berbank and Bernays, they usually don't last. Yeah, so that's a good point. Berbank is usually, some people, they'll reduce cream with their after their reduction is all sec, they'll add cream, like about 4 ounces of cream, and that'll be your stabilizing agent. That's kind of bulletproofs it. That'll make it last through the service for 4 hours, you know. But I just did a straight one because, you know, butter sauce, lemon, it's pretty awesome. I just wanted you to show, but there's always tricks. There's always some joker that wants to you know, make it last longer, or, you know, put a ingredient in, you know, that'll preserve it. But strictly speaking, you know, bechamel we use for the line, so that's got a good, you know, I'd say week. I make it in a batch, and I'll put it in, you know, like quart containers, and we'll take it out as we need it. I make it every week. I get about 3 to 4 of them, so per week. The brown sauce is, you know, not infinite, but it'll stay a while in the cooler. Tomato sauce is the same, because it's got that. It's not so much a temporary emulsion, but, you know, more of a solid, you know, emulsified sauce, not temporary, like Hollandaise or Berbank. So they keep a while. You can use them, you know, there's so much, you know, eggs. You can use beef. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff, you know, that can be used for cheese sauce, you know, macaroni and cheese, or, you know, yeah, like glaçage. I make a scallop dish, which is a basic velouté, but it has cheese in it, more cheese. So I put that in the broiler, and it gets you know, kind of golden brown, almost not black, but it'll start to turn. You know, the cheese. I'll put a little cheese on top, and glaçage. You know, it'll get a nice coat of that. So it, you know, anything goes with anything these days. I mean, even back then. But, you know, you gotta think about what you want to do with the sauce and what you have available. You know, produce-wise or whatever. You know, it's just kind of up to you. I'm just showed you a few things, you know, in a short period of time. But that's kind of your sauces.
Are there any general rules of how to make sauces to eat your fish beyond the experience?
No, not for me. I mean, you know, cheeses can be good with tomato sauce. I do a brie with the tomato sauce here, a fried brie, and a caramelized onion. So yeah, man, I was gonna do the Berbank with the fish, tenderloin, it was gonna do a béarnaise, you know, tarragon in the hollandaise, and pasta with your, you know, your cheese sauce. You know, there's kind of modern day, you know, pairings, but yeah, there's no rule of thumb there. You know, you guys have seen Top Chef.
Can I be frozen?
Yeah, you can do like velouté, the brown sauce, the demi, or the Espanol. Yeah, you can freeze those. Yeah, you definitely could. I don't know about the tomato sauce. There's a little more water content with the tomatoes, but the stock, like chunky, I would say. But definitely the velouté and the Espanol, you could freeze, but not the bechamel, because that's a cheese that usually doesn't work too well.
And the holidays probably.
In hollandaise, no, I mean, that would separate. You have two different liquids in your container. But
So you have to eat that 15 egg sauce like right away.
yeah, right. I mean, that was my scale that I use for kitchen, but for you guys, it could be 4 eggs and, you know, half a cup of butter, you know, because you're just thickening it and then adding the butter to your taste, you know, 4 to 8 ounces. Egg yolks will take on a lot of liquid, believe it or not. So yeah, that's
Everyone says thank you so much.
awesome. Thank you. I'm glad I could be here in your homes in this era. Yeah. I'll leave my email if you guys have any specific questions, you know, or anything, you know, recipes I didn't have time, but, you know, I can always help you out with that. So, so yeah, thank you for having me. Thanks
Thank
for
you
watching.
so much. Thank you,
Yeah.
Chef Andrews. Thank you, audience. And now we're gonna attack the holiday sauce while we turn off the mic.
Yeah.
Can. And mic.
Yeah, so, I mean, I still have that beef. Do you want to do like a tenderloin or something? Or are you guys just gonna, if you want to take some home, have a sauce, you know, it's your call. Because most of the sauces I made can't really do anything with, so, I mean, some of it. But
Until next